What's up, guys? It's Toad back with you as usual. This is the NFL Week 6 video. Thanks to all you joined for the college football video last night. Not having the greatest last couple of days. I don't think it looked like it was going really well today. It looked like it was going to be an awesome day today, and all of a sudden it's looking horrible. Thanks to all these night games all going the wrong way, and some of them barely so. I hate it, dude. I hated yesterday losing on the San Diego Padres. Darvish. I mean, I didn't talk about that game really specifically in this morning's video, but I guess I'll just rant about it now because why not? Because I didn't do it this morning. Darvish, I mean, he did fine in that game. He gave up 2 runs. They were both solo home runs. It was just the other side of it. Yamamoto actually went like 5 shutout innings, and then the Dodgers went to the bullpen, and the bullpen held up and didn't allow anything. I'm pretty sure that's what happened, and that was it. I'm pissed off about it, and now I'm pissed off about what's going on here today. I started off with 2 blowout wins. Iowa, Miami, Ohio, absolutely no sweat. Easy. Win, not even close. Then we get NC State. Looked like they were probably going to cover. I mean, they were hanging around. They were within that number for pretty much most of the game. Then they wound up losing by 7, so I missed that one by 1 score, basically. And then now I got UCLA. I just turned the game off. I couldn't even fucking watch it because UCLA, they were winning the game for a large extent of the game. It was back and forth. Minnesota has scored so little in that game. They have no business covering a 4-point spread when they have scored, what was it? They had scored 14 points in almost the entire game, and that was looking like they were just about to go up 7 at best for me. It looked like it was going to push. At worst, it was probably going to go into overtime, and then I'm going to wind up losing the bet in overtime on UCLA, a game where they hold Minnesota to below like 20 points or whatever for almost the entire game, and they still don't even cover +4, even though they're winning by 3 with I don't know how much time was left. Even if that pushes, I'm going to go from a 2-0 day to a losing day overall because of the fucking Edmonton Oilers. I don't even know what is going on in that game. Skinner is just ass this year. I expected a huge bounce back from him. I did not expect him to do as nearly as poorly as he did in the first game of the season as he's doing tonight. I think he's in net for them tonight. I don't know what is happening to that guy. Edmonton, last I saw, Chicago didn't even have that many shots on goal, and they still had 3 goals. I am not happy right now. I'm pissed. 3-1. Yeah, Pitt probably should have covered, man. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was a really low-scoring game, but they were winning 17-3, 17-6, whatever it was. It's Picard. Well, fuck him. It should still be a bounce back. Edmonton still shouldn't even be close to losing this game. I mean, this is just so bad. It should be a bounce back for them. We're going to talk about NFL. I'm done talking about all this other bullshit. I'm going to still have a winning day if UCLA actually winds up covering, which looks like it's not going to happen. They stole a goal off Edmonton. I'm not even going to watch it. I don't want to hear about it. Chiefs, what? Another Chiefs win, even on an off week. The Chiefs are on bye this week. So let's talk about NFL this week. We got, Chiefs, Rams, Dolphins, Minnesota, Vikings are all on bye this week, as you can see here. I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to talk about the isolated games first, because I always do. We got another London game, Jaguars, Bears. This is in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium again, I think, in London. Same place that last week's game was played. But this is a totally different matchup. This is Jags, Bears. On the one hand, the Jaguars, I mean, they're coming off a big win where they finally got a win last week. They beat the Indianapolis Colts, my Indianapolis Colts. Jaguars were able to pull off that divisional win, a big win in a very high-scoring game. It was a pretty big win, pretty big emotional win for the Jaguars, I would say, to finally get that win out of the way. But I could see that going multiple different ways. Is that really going to put them in a letdown spot here? Or is it not going to, because they know they're playing a decent team, the Bears. They're playing in this isolated London game, so maybe that's still going to have the Jaguars focused a little bit. And maybe it's like a momentum starter for them, because the Jaguars, I think, probably know that they're better than their whatever it was. I think they started 0-4, right? Whatever the case was, they finally get a win, and now I think that could start some winning momentum for them. And when you're a team that should be better than they are and you have a really bad record, I think you're not really going to be overlooking too many teams. Like, you're probably not going to really be in a letdown spot. So I actually like the Jaguars in this game against the Bears, and you can see that the Jaguars are it looks like they are the play as far as the market read is concerned, as they flip from a 1.5-point dog now to a pick'em, going through the pick'em to the point where the Jags are looking like they're probably going to wind up being a favorite in this game. 51% of the tickets, 64% of the cash. So it's even where the line is right now, it's a pick the winner type of game. And the public's going to come in on this and look at these teams' records, and I'm pretty sure they're just going to be thinking, wait a minute, I get a Bears team that's above 500 against a Jaguars team that didn't even have a win at all until last week, and they barely won. This is just pick the winner. It's easy. Pick the Bears, right? Like, I think that's what the public is probably going to be thinking, even though we do have 51% of the tickets on the Jag side here. I will say this pregame screen that I look at, I think it does track more sharp books, like a higher percentage of sharp books than, like, if you look at like Action Network, it's tracking all the like Square, like online books, internet books. I think this screen here doesn't really have the online books in it. So this, I've always felt that this one has given me a better read on what's going on. So that ticket percentage, we're looking at an overall like percentage here that is actually more heavily affected by the professional bettors on this screen than what you'd see on like Action Network. So that might be a little bit of the reason why, but I think we could still kind of gauge it. I do think that the Bears are probably a somewhat public side in this one, in my opinion. I think they probably are, but the Jags are getting more of the cash right now, and I think this is a legitimate move through the pick'em there. Bears, they do have the better defense, but I think their offense is still pretty questionable. I mean, I know Caleb Williams has been better for one or two games now, but I mean, he did that against a Rams defense that's maybe they might be the worst defense in the NFL, dude. The Rams, I mean, their defense is bad this year, and that was a game I bet on Chicago. I told you the Rams are in a really bad spot because they were also coming off a huge win over the San Francisco 49ers, a big upset win, so they were in a letdown. I think it was really a sandwich because the Rams also had Green Bay up next after that. So it was a bad spot, man. Chicago still kind of like, they were able to do it. They were able to get the cover for me, the win and cover, but still kind of barely did that. And then they finally put up a good offensive performance for once against the Carolina Panthers. I mean, okay, it's the Carolina Panthers. They're still one of the worst teams in football as well. So I'm not convinced that Caleb Williams is all of a sudden like a good quarterback. I think we might see him even take a little bit of a step back here. Not that the Jags defense is really that good. In fact, it isn't. The Jags defense has been pretty bad so far this year, and the Bears certainly have the better of these two defenses, but I think that the Jags have the much better quarterback here. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, I know he was injured for the later portion of last season, didn't look good. He was playing with like an injured collarbone or whatever. He started this season, I think maybe he was still trying to like get himself back in game shape, whatever it was, but I think we're going to see him, I think, improve again because he's not this bad. Whereas Caleb Williams, I don't think he's as good as he's looked the last couple of games. So I think we're getting the better quarterback, at least with the Jaguars in this one. I think we're getting the better offense with the Jaguars, even though usually I do lean towards the defense. But I think the thing that puts this over the top, I'm not playing this game, but the thing that puts it over the top is that the Jaguars are like the London team, dude. They play in London all the time. So these guys are used to it. They have a lot of players who have played in London before. They played 2 games in London last year on back-to-back weeks, which, by the way, they're doing again. And it's something I'm going to talk about more next week because I'm almost guaranteeing you I'm going to be playing the Jaguars in this game against New England next week. If New England has a good game this week against Houston, even more so. You better believe I'm going to be playing the Jaguars in this game next week. It's going to be a huge advantage to the Jaguars staying in London and having a second week. That second week they're going to be in London where they've already been in London for a week and they're just completely adjusted to the time zone is going to be a massive edge, which they had the same situation last year, dude. I don't know why the Jaguars have become the London team, but the same thing happened last year where they played Atlanta, and I think they won that game too, and then they had a game against Buffalo staying in London the next week. The Jags played a second straight game in London. Buffalo was having to go into London, which is not really a place they usually go to, off of, I think, a big game as well. So I was all over the Jags in that one. And I believe They might have won outright against the Bills in that game. I think they certainly covered at the very least. So we might have that situation again next week, but I like the Jaguars in this game too. I think that experience factor puts it over the top, man. I mean, this is a Jags team. Like I said, they have personnel. I think their head coach, Peterson, he was there last year too, right? He's been there for a while. So these guys are used to playing in London. The Jags are the team that's more used to playing in London than any other team in the NFL. So I think that's going to serve them okay here. Bears, I don't even know when the last time they played in London was, if ever. So lean to the Jaguars in that one. Justin, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Oh, you were the one that said the Chiefs thing. For some reason, I thought it was still Nate. Dallas, what's up? No, you do not send the dick pics to Better Off Dead. They go in my Telegram or Twitter DMs, but I recommend that you don't do that because I don't enjoy it as much as I said that I did on the last Tower Gang for humorous effect. But those things that I said about the positives, they still weren't a lie necessarily, all right? We're here to talk about football here as I make you listen to me drinking water, man, because I'm always dehydrated. I always need a ton of water. I'm a fat so. Let's talk about some of these other games that I'm not playing, but there are a few other games that I think are at least interesting to talk about and almost plays for me. And one was me almost deciding to fade Arizona. I think Arizona's in a letdown spot, man. And they're a team that's really hard to gauge. Like, I played them against Washington, and I thought Washington was in a letdown off of beating the Cincinnati Bengals on Monday night on a short week, and Arizona had a nice opening drive, and then they just didn't even show up for the rest of the game. This Arizona team, you have no idea when they're going to show up and when they're not. This is the most like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde team that I've ever seen, probably. Like, look at these scores. One week they're blowing some team out, and then the next game, basically, they're getting blown out. So they're coming off a big win over San Francisco, where they actually had to make a late comeback in that game to win at San Francisco, and now they're having a second straight road game, having to go from the Pacific Coast into the Central Time Zone, I guess it is, to face Green Bay in Lambeau. At least for them, it's not going to be a cold weather game in Lambeau, I don't think, although it's getting a little bit cooler probably out there. But what's the temp going to be? 52 with rain, actually. So it's not going to be the best conditions there. So maybe the conditions might affect Arizona a little bit in that one too. Probably not used to playing in cool-ish weather as much, since they play in the heat of Arizona and they have a roofed stadium. So probably they're not used to that, and Green Bay is. So maybe a little bit of an extra edge for Green Bay there with the weather situation, although it's not going to be one of those patented really cold Lambeau games. Green Bay, I mean, they're coming off kind of an escape against the LA Rams, or Green Bay, I think, should have won that game more easily. They outgained LA in the game. They had that one really horrific play where Jordan Love, he's still making like rookie-ish mistakes, man, even though I know he's not a rookie. I don't know which season. Was last season considered to be his rookie season? I don't even know. It feels like he's been around for longer than that. But maybe it was last season, because I guess Aaron Rodgers was gone after the season before that. But Jordan Love, I mean, he made one really bad mistake in that Rams game where he avoided a safety by throwing a pick six. That's how you want to avoid a safety, right? He was like falling out of the back of the end zone. Oh shit, it's going to be a safety. Let me just throw it right to the defense and let them pick six me instead. But the Green Bay still won the game in that one. Rams just really struggling there, man. Unfortunately, it's a good time for the Rams to have a bye this week, though, and hopefully for their sake, they're going to get some of those injured wide receivers back at the very least there for the Rams. But Green Bay, I think they're in a better spot here because they're not really coming off of a big game or anything like that. So I lean to Green Bay in this one. Green Bay is public a little bit with 63% of the tickets, but 79% of the cash on them. And I just think ultimately it's a letdown spot for Arizona. Big win over San Francisco, and then having to go up to Green Bay, which is not as great an environment for them to be playing in. Packers up from 5.5 to 5.5 with juice. So I like the Packers in that one. Close to a play for me on the Green Bay Packers. Thanks, Will. You're spamming my notifications, Will. Do it with the beer hat. I don't have one of those right now, and I went sober. But yeah, you're right. Do it with 2 water bottles in it or some other drink of my preference. I actually could do that, and then you'd hear, and that would be, dude, I always need headwear during this show because I shave my head. Like, I'm fine when I'm like completely bald and I just shaved. but my hair grows back like so fast. I only shave it. This is inside baseball here. Inside my baseball hat. I only shave because like the front of my hair is like, it's just way too thin now. And the rest of my hair is really thick. I've had thick hair like my whole life basically. So it's really unfortunate. It started thinning in the front. So now I just shave it all off because any other look just looks terrible. But it starts growing back everywhere else so fast that I'm like George Costanza in like a day almost, basically. So then I just put the hat on him. I can't shave my head every single day, man. I do it like once a week at this point. It's annoying. I do it myself. I use a Skull Shaver. Not an official sponsor of Better Off Dead. Skull Shaver, Pitbull, Silver Pro, or whatever the hell it is. I could Hulk Hogan it, but I'd need a Fu Manchu to pull off the look there, and I'd need to be more jacked and be able to wrestle dudes. But yeah, so I just throw the hat on. So that would solve my headwear problem and solve my loud water drinking issue here too, because then I just have the straws from it in my mouth. All right, so Green Bay, I do lean to Green Bay. I don't even know how many of these games I really want to talk about because a lot of these games I don't feel are that interesting. I will talk about the primetime games, and I do have a play on one of them. You're going to hate my plays this week, by the way, which I've said it before, but you know me. I play on ugly teams, and you think of like the 3 ugliest possible plays I could make this week. I'm on all of them. I got 3 plays. Chargers, Broncos. I mean, this one was kind of close to a play for me. I like the Chargers. In this one, the Chargers are up from 2.5 to 3, so not really a huge move there. It does look like the tickets are evenly split, but 55% of the cash on the Broncos. But I've also heard some professional bettors who like read the market a bit saying that the Broncos are actually public in this game. I'm not seeing that as far as the read here, but maybe looking at some other books, maybe the Broncos are more public than this. And I think maybe it makes sense with the way the Broncos have been playing recently, but I think the Broncos are a fade team right now, dude, because they're 3-2 right now, and I don't think they're anywhere close to as good as their record as Chargers sitting at 2-2 because they did just have a bye. So the Chargers are coming out of a bye. I mean, I'll talk about what they last did in a second, actually, because I'll talk about Denver first. Denver, I mean, what have they done so far in these wins? They did have one big win over Tampa Bay, which I was on Denver in that one. I thought it was a really bad spot for Tampa Bay. That was a big-time sandwich Tampa Bay was in. They were off of getting playoff revenge in the same venue that the playoff game happened in, the playoff loss happened in last year. They upset Detroit to get playoff revenge in Detroit, and then Tampa had Philadelphia up after Denver. So that was a big sandwich spot. Denver was able to get to them, win the game. But then these other 2 games, totally misleading results, man, especially the Raiders one. Denver, they didn't really have much business winning either of these games, dude. Against the Jets, Denver put up 186 yards of offense. They got outgained, and they still somehow squeaked by with a win in that game, despite having virtually no offense. And then last week's game, I mean, come on, man. Patrick Surtain, he had 2 interceptions. One was, I think, like a 100-yard pick six. Yeah, which was right here. Just ridiculous stuff going on in this game, dude. The Broncos, this is a completely misleading final result. They were losing the game 10-0, and the Raiders were on the goal line, basically about to go up 17-3, and then they threw an 100-yard pick six, so a 14-yard swing in one play, and that basically pretty much determined the rest of the game. Broncos got outgained in this game too by the Raiders, and Broncos were +3 in turnover margin, and that's why they won this game. So a couple of misleading results for the Denver Broncos there. And Bo Nix, he has not been doing well, dude. I mean, at this point, I think he's probably worse than Caleb Williams. I mean, maybe he is better with his legs a little bit than Caleb Williams is, but Bo Nix, he's just been bad, dude. And there was a point, I think in the Jets game, Bo Nix had like -7 yards passing through like an entire half of that Jets game. I mean, he's just not getting it done. So there is absolutely no way that I would want to come in on this Denver game. I played them once and got the win in that ridiculously bad spot for Tampa Bay, but unless Denver's playing against a team that's in a horrible spot, there's no way I'm playing Denver. I mean, they look way better than they are right now. I think we're going to see Denver totally collapse. I mean, 3-2, just ridiculous. Denver's probably going to win like 5 games on the entire season, 5 or 6 games. I don't think I'm exaggerating. They're not good. Their defense maybe is okay, but Chargers in a much better spot because they're coming out of a bye like at a pretty opportune time for them, man. They just had 2 straight losses, and I know it was a big game and kind of a game that they got up for against Kansas City, and they blew a 10-0 lead in that game. So you could say that, well, coming off of the Kansas... Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Oh, my God, I apologize. I've been talking about all these games and not even sharing my screen. Sorry about this. I will be doing it while I talk about my actual plays, though. Chargers, I mean, they had a bye, like coming at the best possible time, man. Even though you could say that maybe they'd be in kind of a hangover spot potentially after a loss to Kansas City, but I think this bye is going to serve to break up that loss streak, dude. I mean, they lost 2 games in a row. They're going to bounce back here, I think, and they're used to playing in Denver, so high elevation. I don't think we care about that at all. I think this is going to be a spot where I like the Chargers in this one, man. I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say about that, but I think this bye week is also going to help the Chargers get healthy, man, because they've been dealing with some injuries. I don't know if Alt is coming back. Their rookie center, I believe, was one of their best offensive linemen there. Herbert, I think, has been banged up a little bit too. I think he played through it in these games, but he was playing injured, dude. So that bye week should serve to help Herbert get a little bit healthier. And I don't know what other injuries they have, but I think they're going to be definitely helped out by this bye week. Usually you don't want a bye week this early in the season, but for a banged-up Chargers team that was on a 2-game loss streak, yeah, I think that bye week's going to help them turn it around. So I do like the Chargers in that game. And you're, again, like I said with the Jaguars, you're playing the team with the better, more experienced quarterback up against a rookie quarterback. So you're taking Justin Herbert instead of Bo Nix in that game, which also looks good as far as I'm concerned. And the line also looks kind of misleading, dude. You got a 2-2 Chargers team that's lost their last 2 games up against a 3-2 Broncos team that's on a 3-game win streak. And the Chargers are at the Broncos and laying 3 points. So I don't see how the public's not on the Broncos. Although, like I said, some of the market reading guys that I listened to have said that they are actually on the Broncos. And I think that would kind of make sense because, like I said, you're looking at it's another situation like with the 49ers on Thursday night where you have a team that is laying points on the road despite having the worst record. The odds makers are just telling you something here, man. They're telling you Broncos not as good as their record would indicate. Chargers are the better team here. So I like the Chargers. No, you should not be commenting on 100 videos tomorrow, sir. You can actually... The boosting the algorithm, go for it. Even though my notifications will get spammed. Sean Payton is overrated. I agree he is. Drew Brees, one of the best quarterbacks ever. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of Sean Payton. I mean, he had Bounty Gate. I don't know how he's even still in the league, to be honest. Not a fan of him at all. Yeah, sorry, Joe Alt is a tackle. Yeah, he is huge, though. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be back in this game or not, though. All right, what other games? I'll talk about a few of these other biggest games. A game that we didn't think, I skipped over it, but a game that we didn't think was going to be a huge game, and somehow it now is. Washington Redskins at Baltimore Ravens. And this is also like a big geographic clash here, right? Because it's like the conference like geographical foes here with Washington against Baltimore. Very close in proximity to each other there. This is a game where I think their win streak's going to come to an end in this game, man. I don't know what better way to put it here, but Washington, they're a public underdog here with 58% of the tickets, 52% of the cash on the Baltimore Ravens zone. The Ravens are down from 7 to 6.5 with juice. I looked at the look-ahead lines for this, like what the lines were in these games prior to last week's games being played. And I think the Ravens were like maybe more than a 7-point favorite on the look ahead. So the fact that that's gone through the key number 7, you're looking at 6.5 there, indicates something to me that that's a pretty significant move. So I think you're actually getting value on Baltimore here. And I think the books maybe had to make that move because of how these teams looked last week. And how did they look last week? Well, Washington, I mean, they continued that ridiculous win streak. They just kind of look unstoppable right now with Jaden Daniels. They just crushed the Cleveland Browns. But again, it's the Cleveland Browns. And Baltimore had a game where they struggled against Cincinnati, which brutal loss for me. Cincinnati should have won that game. Cincinnati had that game in hand. As you know, I was on Cincinnati last week, and they wound up failing to cover by a half point because I didn't find any threes out there, just the 2.5s. Terrible. But that makes Baltimore, I think, look a little worse than they are. I think the fact that Baltimore is 3-2 also makes them look worse than they are. So this is another situation where the records kind of look misleading, man, because you have a Washington team that's 4-1 against the Ravens team. It's 3-2, and the 3-2 team's laying almost a touchdown. So the public's coming in thinking that's going to be value. Oh, I'm taking this hot Washington team that only has one loss on the season that has the better record, and you're giving me like a touchdown here? Of course I'm going to take Washington here. Yeah, not so fast. Baltimore, I mean, one of their losses was that opening game at Arrowhead, so you're not going to knock them for losing to the Kansas City Chiefs. Not an easy game to win. And then this was a sandwich spot. This was a bad spot in the next game against the Raiders. Baltimore, they blew that game against the Raiders. They had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, blew it, and they did have a big game against Dallas up next. They just had a bunch of big games coming up next. Buffalo, Cincinnati, all those games were bigger than the Raiders. So I think they just overlooked the Raiders, and that's why they dropped that game. Baltimore, they're not like that really historically good defense that they had last year. And as we know, McDonald, their DC from last year, is gone, and he's the head coach of Seattle now. But this Baltimore team, I think they're still one of the better teams in football, man. And they should have a field day against this Washington defense. I mean, you're getting a Baltimore team that's good on both sides of the ball here. Their offense can trade points with this Washington offense. I mean, Jayden Daniels, sure, he's been good. This Washington offense has looked good, but Baltimore, they're one of the higher scoring teams in football as well. And Baltimore's the only one of these two teams that has a defense. So if you're laying the points with Baltimore here, you're getting the well-rounded team against the team that has basically no defense. So I like Baltimore here. It could turn into a shootout. Totals up from 50 to 51. I do see 79% of tickets on the over, though the public is eyeing this game. They're probably going to want to only play an over here, knowing that this is Jayden Daniels against Lamar Jackson, and it looks like a big-time quarterback matchup there. 72% of the cash, so less of the cash, but I'm not going to be playing an under in a game like this, man, even though I know it's a public over, but it's a very high total for a reason. The books are putting, and it's moved up through the key number of 51 to 51.5, so it looks like some actual money may have actually pushed that one up a little bit. I don't know if it's just because of the public sentiment there on that over, so I mean, leaning to Washington games to go over every single time is probably the right move, to be honest, until we see otherwise, because they just score a ton and they give up a ton of points. But Washington is real bad, and I think they're especially bad against the run. And I think the Ravens could just totally gash this Washington defense. If it turns into a shootout, I mean, I think you're going to see the Ravens be able to outscore Washington in this game. And, of course, it's still a rookie quarterback. I know he's been good, Jayden Daniels, but he's a rookie quarterback, and this is going to be the best team that he's faced so far. And probably the best defense that he's faced this year, right? I mean, who has he faced so far? Tampa, I mean, their defense is kind of in shambles right now. Maybe it wasn't to start the season, but Washington lost that game. Then Giants, I mean, their defense has played okay, like better than we think at the very least. Cincinnati's defense has been a train wreck. Arizona's defense has not been good. And Cleveland, they just can't do anything right now. So, I mean, this win streak that they're on, it's impressive for a rookie quarterback, but I don't know that it's necessarily totally impressive. Baltimore's going to be the best team they've faced so far, man. So I think Washington's going to be up against it in this one. I like Baltimore. It's never really a bad idea to fade a square underdog. Public coming in on an underdog like that usually is a red flag. You usually want to be on the favorite. So that's what I like. What's going on? Ghost, what's up, brother? Ghost, is that you, Ghost, or is that not you? Ghost 44, what's going on, man? Who the hell is Mel Kiper? He is an ESPN NFL draft analyst, right? Why, did he say Caleb Williams was going to be awesome or that Bo Nix was going to be awesome? Washington fans are full of it. Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to have to take a step back a little bit. They're pretty good, but, I mean, we might see them get into the playoffs the way that they've been going right now, but they're not going to be able to beat, like, these, really good teams that are in the NFL. Brian Robinson Jr. is out too. That is true. I hope he's out. He's missed. I don't know if he's been ruled out. He's missed practice this week, and I hope he's out for my sake because I'm down to 3-2 now in my main fantasy league, and I have Austin Eckler, and I really want to flex Austin Eckler. So if Robinson is out, I think I'm going to get a lot of playing time from Eckler. So I do want that to happen. Hopefully it happens. Pistolero, what's going on, my man? Robinson was an easy touchdown each week in the red zone. Brian Robinson, Brian Robinson. I mean, this Washington team, they keep scoring. But, with Robinson out, I mean, I don't think that's going to affect their offense that much, though, to be honest. Robinson being out. I mean, they have Eckler and they have who's their other running back? I mean, they have decent running backs that are going to fill in for him. This is the NFL, man. Unless you have like one of the absolute top tier running backs. Running backs in the NFL are like plug and play, dude. But maybe against Baltimore, these running backs will have a little bit of a tougher time. That's how I feel about that game. And then I'll talk about what am I going to talk about? Lions-Cowboys, just because it's a big game. And then I'll talk about the primetime Sunday night game. And then I'll get to my plays because one of them is on the Monday night game. Kill me, please. Help me. Lions-Cowboys, I don't have a good feel for this one. This is one of the biggest games of the week, though, and it's the game with the highest total. So that Washington-Baltimore game is second as far as the high totals go. Total in this one is up from 52 to 52.5. 77% of the tickets on the over. 54% of the cash on the under, though. So it looks like a little bit of a pros versus Joes type of market look to that game there, where it looks like the pros are actually coming in and liking the under in that one. It seems dangerous to me, man, with a Lions team that can put up pretty good offensive numbers and a Cowboys team that, oh boy, that Cowboys team, that defense is not very good. And Cowboys, they don't have a good rushing attack, but the Lions, their rush defense is really their strength on defense. The Lions' pass defense is their problem, and of course, the Cowboys throw the ball on offense. It's Dak Prescott. He's got a bunch of good wide receivers, so they throw the ball more than they run it. So Cowboys have the offensive weapons to take advantage of the Lions' defensive weaknesses. Lions' rushing defense hasn't been as good as it was last year either. And the Cowboys have finally decided to switch off of Zeke, I think, as their number one running back. And they've gone to, what's the guy's name? I forget his name. Cowboys' new starting running back there. I mean, I don't think he's that good, but he's getting a lot of carries now, at least, for the Cowboys. But I'm not going to risk playing an under in this game. I don't know about the side either, really, to be honest. The odds makers are telling you something, though, with the Lions being a 3.5-point favorite. I was kind of expecting Dallas would be a public play this week, because how could they not be, right? Like Dallas at home against basically anybody in the league. How if they're an underdog at home, how could the public not be coming in on Dallas here, man? 67% of the tickets look like they're on the Lions, though, and 83% of the cash. So the Lions look like they're a little bit public right now. Maybe just everybody's reacting to what they saw, man, against Seattle. The Lions definitely played a good game in front of a national audience there, beating Seattle, putting up a ton of points. Lions also went into a bye on a pretty good note. They went into a bye with 2 straight wins, so I don't think that was exactly a very great team, very great time for the Lions to go into a bye there. When a bye disrupts a win streak and you're playing really well, man, it's not really the best time to have a bye necessarily, although I don't think the Lions are just not going to show up. I mean, you're playing against the Dallas Cowboys, so it's a big game, so I don't think you're going to overlook it, even though they do have a big divisional game against Minnesota coming up next, which is the battle of the 2 top teams in the NFC North. That NFC North suddenly looks like what we thought the AFC North was going to be. The NFC North looks like it is probably the best division in the NFL this year. But, I mean, you're not going to overlook the Dallas Cowboys, I don't think. Dallas, on the other hand, what are they doing? I don't even know. They're coming off they're playing on a somewhat of a shortened-ish week because they played in a Sunday night primetime game against Pittsburgh. So Dallas is coming off that. And that was the game that Dallas really, I think, should have lost the game. Pittsburgh had the game in hand. I mean, Pittsburgh scored right near the end there to go up 17-13. Dallas needed a touchdown at the end, and Dallas, I think, converted on 4th down to get it done there, which is just ridiculous that Dallas was able to do that. Very last play, basically their last shot at it, they were able to get the touchdown from, I don't even know how many yards out it was. I think it was probably more than 10 yards. I don't remember what it was, but just kind of brutal for anybody that bet Pittsburgh. And I had Pittsburgh in pools. I didn't bet them, but Dallas, it was a tough spot for Dallas, though. They probably should have won the game, but Dallas's offense hasn't looked good for really basically since the opening week, man. So I don't know what's going on here. So maybe there is something to that underplay. I was thinking Dallas is like this high-scoring team, but that hasn't really been the case. After they beat up Cleveland in week 1, Dallas has scored 19, 25, 20, and 20. So they've only exceeded 20 they've only exceeded 20 points once since week 1, which is not what you would think that Dallas has been doing. So that's not actually that great for Dallas. So maybe I do agree with where the cash percentage is, and I agree with the Detroit side, even though I don't think that bye is going to help them. I think that bye is disruptive, but Dallas definitely does not have the rest advantage at the very least. Detroit at least rested last week. So I don't know, man. And because, again, you're looking at a Detroit team that's favored on the road against a Dallas team, even though Detroit does have a slightly better record than Dallas, that line, like lines length 3.5 on the road at Dallas, just looks misleading to me. And it looks to me like it would make the public like not want to come in to that high degree, laying the points with the Lions there. So I might lean to the Lions in that one, but I'm not jumping out of my seat to play that game. Robinson has been killing it in fantasy. McNichols, where's McNichols at? I don't even know. Cowboys do have a ton of injuries on defense. That is also true. So I don't know if because they have so many injuries that's now affecting the line. I don't know. I know Michael Parsons is hurt. I think what's the guy's name? Lawrence, is that his name? He's hurt as well. So they got a lot of defensive injuries there. Rico Dowdle, thank you, Nate. Yeah, that's the running back now for Dallas there. So yeah, Dallas maybe not in the greatest situation there personnel-wise. McNichols is Washington's third running back, who might be their second running back this week, assuming that if Robinson is not going to play, I assume Eckler is going to take over as the number one because he was the number one at the Chargers, even though he is he's kind of a smaller, like shorter running back. So he's not really like a power back, but he was like an all-down back, I'm pretty sure, for the Chargers and what they do. And Washington, I mean, they throw the ball a lot too, so I think he does fit into that system pretty well. Bengals-Giants is the Sunday night game. I mean, what are we doing here, man? Schedule makers? Why? Bengals-Giants? I mean, come on, man. And who would think that the Giants would be the one of these teams that has the better record coming into week 6? Like, what is going on here? Bengals are public with 79% of tickets, but 87% of the cash. Line looks like it's dropped from 5 to 3.5, but with juice. So it looks like we do see some reverse movement against the Bengals. When I first thought about this game, I did kind of agree with the Giants side, but then again, I don't know. It depends. I have a hard time reading the side in this one because you're looking at a 1-4 Bengals team is laying points on the road to a Giants team that has a better record at 2-3. So it's another one of those lines that almost looks a little bit misleading. Like, how is a team with a worse record laying points against the Giants? But in this specific game, I don't know if I would read it that way because I think in this game, as we see, the public is heavily on the Bengals, so I don't think the public is reading it that way. So I think it's still a situation where the public is thinking, nope, this is the Bengals, this is Joe Burrow, this is Jamar Chase. They're still going to turn it around. They looked pretty decent in a loss last week to the Ravens. Bengals are going to turn it around. This Giants team still sucks. I think that's what the public is going to think about this game. So I tend to lean more to the Giants because of that. And because Cincinnati, because they're off that really tough game, that was a brutal way to lose that game against Baltimore, man. And now they have to go out on the road to face the Giants. Like, are they really going to get excited about that? I think they could be hung over from the way they lost that Baltimore game, dude. That's a pretty devastating way to lose that game. And they do have a divisional game up next against Cleveland as well, even though Cleveland has been playing horribly. It is still Cleveland. Yeah, I would expect two teams 1-4 in the AFC North, and that Pittsburgh would be one of the teams that's close to leading the division and had been leading it until last week. I don't know, but I do kind of like the Giants in this one for these reasons. You know, the Giants, They were also off a pretty good win on the road as an underdog, a game that I won on. I'm better off dead. That was my winning NFL play last week with the Giants +7. Giants had a good game, and they beat Seattle on the road. It was a bad spot for Seattle, though. But does that mean the Giants are also going to be in a letdown spot coming off of that because they pulled off a pretty sizable upset there? I mean, maybe. But they're hosting a Sunday night game against the Cincinnati Bengals, so I do think the Giants are the more likely team to not overlook their opponent in this game, is how I would look at it. I think Cincinnati, off of that just brutal loss, the brutal way to lose that game to Baltimore, I think that puts Cincinnati in the worst spot. And at the very least, you are fading the public if you're taking the points with the Giants. Giants, I think, are still kind of flying under the radar, man. I don't know if Malik Nabers is still hurt or not, but it didn't even matter. Last week, they still were able to win the game without Nabers and without Singletary. So it seems like those offensive components don't matter that much. The Giants' defense is actually not that bad. I mean, look at what the Giants' defense has done after they gave up 28 to Minnesota. They gave up 21 to Washington, and we see how potent Washington's offense is. So that doesn't look bad now. Then they held Cleveland to 15. They gave up 20 to Dallas, which I did point out Dallas hasn't been putting up a huge amount of high point totals, but still, I mean, it is the Dallas offense. And then they held Geno Smith and Seattle's pretty high-flying offense, I would say, to 20 points. So this Giants defense, actually not that bad. I mean, I'm not saying that the Giants are good by any means. They're not. I mean, they're in probably the bottom, several teams in the NFL, but I don't think they're a total bottom feeder like what a lot of people seem to think they are. That seems to be the perception of them. So I do lean to the Giants. Nabers is out again. Yeah, all right. McNichols is poaching touchdowns. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Although I'm in a half-point PPR, so Eckler, if he's getting involved in that offense to a large extent, I think it'll be fine for me. But I just hope I win because I have a lot of guys on bye this week in fantasy, man. Lots of guys on bye. I got Aaron Jones on bye. I got Achane on bye this week. Kill me, man. Waddle, though he hasn't been doing anything this week or anything this year. I mean, I have Worthy as well, and he's out. And I said Aaron Jones, right? Yeah, so I'm missing all those guys, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully I can do it. I need Philadelphia defense, baby. Just crush the Cleveland Browns. Let's get some Cleveland Browns horrible offense again. Deshaun Watson. Let's get some horrible mistakes. Come on. Speaking of horrible quarterbacks, I will point out, I forgot to mention this. I was just going to mention it real quickly. Colts, Titans. I mean, I'll just mention the game briefly, I guess. The Titans are bringing back Will Levis. Why? I'm not exactly sure, although Mason Rudolph wasn't necessarily getting it done, but the Titans did win in their last game. They finally won. They beat the Dolphins, and now the Titans are coming off of a bye, but Will Levis is going to be back. I don't know if that bye is going to help the Titans or not necessarily, because the Colts are coming off a game where they played last week. They lost that close game to the Jaguars, a high-scoring game, so the Colts are definitely the less rested of these two teams, so the bye may help the Titans. Even though the Titans did go into it finally having won a game, against Miami, but maybe the Titans, maybe that will be the start of the Titans being able to do something. I do lean to the Titans in this game just because the market looks like it is indicating on the Titans with only 55% of the tickets on them, but 79% of the cash. And the Titans flipped from a 1-point dog to a 2.5-point favorite, almost headed to 3 here, which just looks kind of crazy. Why would the Titans be laying 3 points, a 1-win team, against a Colts team that everybody perceives as a better team? I don't know about that. I mean, I'm not going to get involved in this game monetarily, but and you're not going to find me putting my money on Will Levis, but for some reason, I don't know if it's because Will Levis has been announced as the starter again, that would actually cause the Titans to be favored by more. I don't see why that would be the case, because, I mean, he's just been awful. He's been an interception machine, but maybe that's the case, or maybe this is just legitimate money coming in, betting the Titans and pushing it up. Maybe. But Titans probably are in the better rest spot at the very least. Rudolph and Levis are both terrible. That is true. And one other thing I was going to say about Washington before I forget, back to the Redskins there, Jaden Daniels and the Redskins, they are converting an absurd amount of third and longs so far this year. It's like a completely unsustainable stat that they're putting up. I don't know what the percentage is, but they're it's a historical percentage. There's no way they're going to be able to continue doing that. So I will throw that out there too, that they probably are looking a bit better than they actually are because of that as well. Let's go to my actual plays. Again, obviously you know that these are going to be on games I haven't mentioned yet. So what games am I playing? Yeah, I mean, this is going to get real ugly real quick. New England Patriots +7, although I think you can only get 6.5s now, or maybe 7 with kind of with juice on the +7 there. I don't know. It was at +7 like a day or so ago. So I don't know. And the Texans are public, so I would not say that you need to jump on the Patriots right away if you want to take the Patriots, because it's possible it just hits 7 again at some point tomorrow, because the public is coming in on the Houston Texans side. They're not playing the Patriots. 83% of the tickets on Houston, 69% of the cash. So less of the cash than the tickets on Houston. The line does look like once it hit the 7, it did start dropping. So I do think that means some money did come in, taking the +7. And the under looks like it's been hit, even though we have 57% of the tickets and cash on the over. From 41 down to 37.5 is where the total has gone. This is an insanely low total for an NFL game. I mean, the NFL has become a little bit lower scoring than it has in recent years, and we do see 36s in a couple of these games too, just really ugly games, including that Chargers-Broncos game there. But 37, I mean, it is still quite low. And if you're taking 7 points in a game with a 37 total, I mean, that means you're getting some value taking those points, man. It's better taking points in games with low totals like that, so I do like doing that. And I'll talk about the situation in a minute, because there are other reasons that I want to play the Patriots here, or really I want to play against the Texans. But the reason why the total is so low, I think it's twofold. I mean, I'm kind of surprised the public isn't coming in more on the over here with a total that low, because it is still CJ Stroud, and I think the Texans are still kind of perceived as that really high-scoring offense, but that has not been the case this year, man. This Texans offense has not been scoring a lot this season. They look like they've taken a step back. They've been playing well defensively, though. And the Patriots defense has actually been playing okay too. So that's why this total is way down. Patriots can't play offense at all, really. They've not had a capable offense, really, this entire season. And the Texans, like I said, they're scoring a lot less than they were last year. So I think that's why the total is as low as it is. And I think maybe it does make sense that it is as low as it is, although the fact that it's once it dropped below the 41, I think you're probably not getting much value anymore playing an under in this game. Was it 41? I think it was, right? Yeah, so that's a key number in NFL totals there. The Houston Texans, I mean, they still won 4 games, so the public is only going to come in on them. And New England has won, 1 game so far? So it does look like a complete mismatch. And I mean, the odds makers are obviously telling you that Houston's the better team, which they are. But Houston, they have not won by more than 6 points in any game this season. So you're asking them to lay 7, and I do understand the Patriots are probably the worst team that they've faced so far. I mean, I think they certainly are. They might be the worst team in the NFL. They're one of the worst teams. Maybe not worse than Carolina, but they're one of the worst teams. So yeah, sure, it is going to be the worst team that they've faced so far, but Houston's offense has not been putting up big point totals, man. Since the 29 that they put up against Indy, since then they've only gone over 20 points twice, and the most that they scored was 24. So they have not been putting up a lot of points. So playing an underdog against them does kind of make sense for that reason as well. And Houston, they're in a sandwich spot, man. I don't think there's any other way to look at this. They just played against Buffalo last week in a very high-scoring game that I think it either went to overtime or it went right to the end there. It didn't go into overtime. Houston won on a last-second field goal there. So that was a really close game against a good Buffalo team. Everybody knows Buffalo's still one of the better teams, one of the top teams in the AFC. Huge win for Houston in that one. Now they have to go on the road to New England, which is not really a place that they're really used to playing. It's going to be 54 with rain, so similar to what we're looking at in that Lambeau game. So it's going to be a little bit cool. Houston, I mean, they're an indoor team, so maybe that's not going to be great for them either, having to play outdoors in weather that isn't really that great. So that might be the case for Houston as well tomorrow. So that might help New England as a home underdog as well there. And Houston has Green Bay up next, man. So I think it may be a sandwich spot because that's like the battle of the two quarterbacks who were rookie quarterbacks last year. I think, right? CJ Stroud and Jordan Love, I think they were both rookie quarterbacks last year, I believe. So that's going to be a big battle for that reason alone, but also just because Green Bay was one of the better teams in the NFC last year, and they probably still are again. So Houston might just look right past New England, a team that hasn't done anything right and is 0-2 at home, haven't won since the first week of the season. So I like New England here, and New England, I mean, we know they're shaking things up, as you can see on my screen here. It's what all these articles are about. They're going with the rookie, Drake May. He's going to be playing in this game, and everybody's just shitting on him, making fun of him, saying the Patriots are just still going to get their asses handed to them again against Houston. I mean, for the reasons that I already stated, I don't really think Houston's going to actually run away with this game. I like New England in this one in May. I understand you're playing on a rookie quarterback. He could potentially make mistakes that are going to cost the Patriots the cover in this game. But on the other hand, maybe they won't have May doing like a whole lot there. The Patriots' rushing attack is pretty good, and Houston, they're not as good at defending against the run as they are against the pass, even though their defense has been pretty good. So the Patriots' rushing attack may be able to do something. Although I also know Ramondre Stevenson, I think it's hurt, so the Patriots might be going with Antonio Gibson, but I don't think that's that much of a downgrade necessarily, really. I mean, I think the Patriots still should be able to get something going in the ground game, so I think that might take the load off of Drake May a little bit, hopefully is what their plan is going to be. The Patriots, and that should hopefully keep the game lower scoring as well, which is what you want in a game like this where you're taking a big underdog like that. You want them to be running the ball a lot, maintaining possession, keeping them in the game. So hopefully that's what's going to happen here. We can hope and pray that that'll be the case here. But, I mean, New England's switching off of Jacoby Brissett, and he's a guy, we know basically who he is. He's a veteran, and the reason why he's been in the league for so long is he avoids mistakes, but he doesn't make any, like, key plays, really. New England's offense has just been basically non-existent with him so far this season, just putting up horrifically low point totals all season. I think the 20 against Seattle was the most that they put up, and aside from that game, they didn't exceed 16, and since that those first two games, they haven't exceeded 13 in any of these games. But it was against the Jets and San Francisco. I mean, those are pretty good defenses. And then Miami, I don't know what that was. Yeah, Miami, their defense isn't good. So Patriots, I know that there was that play at the end of the game where it looked like the Patriots had a touchdown, and by rule, it was not a touchdown because the receiver, because he was backing out of the back of the end zone. You're not allowed to just get your heel in. You have to get the whole foot in if you're going backwards. I don't know why the rule is that way, but that was the rule. So by that rule, it was the correct call. I mean, complain about it if you want. I got a pick right in my pools on Miami because of it, though. So whatever the case may be, the Patriots, I mean, I don't think you're going to see an unfocused Patriots team at the very least. I think the team is probably going to rally around Drake May, although I know the Patriots, I believe they've had some off-field issues this week as well. With I think the Patriots having like 2 players get arrested. I mean, but that's just the Patriot way, man, right? Aaron Hernandez. I mean, I forget who else they've had, but Patriots. I mean, they constantly have guys getting arrested. It was the Belichick way back when he was there at the very least. So I don't think that's gonna matter that much. I think. This is mostly a play against Houston because of the spot that they're in. Patriots +7. Hate it, obviously. Go ahead and hate that play. You're going to hate my other plays, maybe even more than that one. It doesn't get much uglier than what we got going on here. Carolina +6.5 is the next one. Oh, man, I got to capitalize, man, because it's an abbreviation. Although I capitalized Iowa, and they wanted a blowout, so we could scream it. Carolina, let's go. Carolina +6.5 is this one. I don't think we're going to see this hit 7, even though Atlanta is very public, so maybe it will hit 7, so there's probably no reason to get on this one immediately either, because we're playing against a very public Atlanta Falcons team. So I have one play in the 1 p.m. slot, one play in the 4:25 p.m. slot, and then I'm going to have a Monday night play. And guess what? They're all on home underdogs. That's where I'm going, baby. Anti-public home underdogs is the name of the game. You know I like those. This is up from -3.5, which I think was actually the look-ahead line, and now it's up to 6.5. Looks like it's probably not going to get to the 7. I don't think the books are going to want to give up the 7 to the professional bettors there. But this look-ahead line prior to last week's games was 3.5, and now it's 6.5. So I think that's a big-time over-adjustment, man, to basically to what we saw the Falcons do last week. I think the only reason that line moved way up is because the Falcons' offense looked insane on Thursday night. It was a primetime game that everybody basically was watching because it was an isolated game. And they saw Kirk Cousins throw for 500-something yards, man. The Falcons put up 30-something points, win in a ridiculously high-scoring game. But I think that serves to jack the line way up on the Falcons to the point where, like, it's just the line is just out of control because of it at that point. And it's just way, way, way too high because of that. Adjusting the line 3 points just because of what we saw last week and because the Panthers got their asses kicked by Chicago. But the Panthers are always getting their asses kicked. So why do we care about that? I don't think we care about that very much. But I think it's mostly the Falcons factor, the Kirk Cousins factor there. And the other purpose that it serves is that it means the Falcons are going to be in a letdown spot, which I think they are here. So that's another reason to fade Atlanta. I think this is a bad scheduling spot. I mean, look at Atlanta's season so far. I mean, not only did they have that huge divisional win on Thursday night in primetime, like I said, where they made that late comeback, they won the game. I think this was on an overtime touchdown. They won the game against, I believe, the team that won the division last year, Tampa Bay. Huge win there, but look at the string of games that they played, man. If you want to exclude the Pittsburgh game, which maybe that one's not that big, they went on the road and won, I believe, in a Monday night game at Philadelphia. Huge step-up game, primetime game, beat Philadelphia. Then they had another primetime game on a Sunday night game the next week against the Kansas City Chiefs, and Atlanta basically got robbed of a win in that one with that Kyle Pitts play in the end zone. They were Kansas City obviously committed pass interference on him, and because it's Kansas City, they never get called for anything. So that was another big step-up game. Then Atlanta had a divisional game against the New Orleans Saints, who had done crazy things in their first 2 games, and Atlanta was able to win that dramatically, I believe, right at the end of the game. I think that was an afternoon Sunday game in that one, so finally not a primetime game, but they were able to win that one dramatically right at the end. And they won against Philadelphia dramatically, too, right at the end with Kirk Cousins, I think, with more magic there, leading them to a winning drive at the end of that game, too. It's just crazy, man. And this one was a Younghoe Koo field goal to beat New Orleans. And then, as I said, the ridiculous touchdown against Tampa Bay. Kirk Cousins throwing for over 500 yards in that game, coming from out of nowhere. I think he had like 4 or 5 touchdown passes in the game. Whatever it was, Cousins hadn't thrown more than, I think, like 1 touchdown in any of or more than 1 or 2, I think, in like any of these games. All of a sudden, he just explodes for a career performance for Kirk Cousins, and it was on Matt Ryan night, I'm pretty sure, in Atlanta, and he beat Matt Ryan's Atlanta Falcons yardage record, I think, for most yards by a quarterback in a Falcons game. I think Matt Ryan had that record, and on Matt Ryan night, Kirk Cousins broke it. I think Matt Ryan was there. If you watch the end of that game, I think I still had it on. He was like congratulating Kirk Cousins. It was wild, man. But what you're looking at here is Atlanta's coming off 4 straight games that all went to the wire, and 3 of them were on primetime. Like, do you think that they're going to be taxed after that run of games? I would have to imagine that they are, even though, yeah, they have a little bit of extra time off because this is a Thursday game, but still, I mean, this is a major letdown spot. I don't see how you can have max effort games week after week like that and not finally have a game where a max effort just doesn't happen. And I think it's going to come in this game against Carolina, man. And Carolina, as bad as they are, they've been decent as a home underdog recently, and a divisional home underdog especially. I think they've been pretty decent, and I mean, Carolina, they're probably going to be the team that's more focused because they got a divisional foe coming in. And I think part of the reason why Carolina does decently as a home underdog against divisional foes is because, or just in general, is because they're so bad recently. The teams just overlook them. I think Atlanta could just look right past them. And look at what they have up next. They have Seattle, hasn't been playing bad. Tampa, another divisional matchup. Dallas after that. Then New Orleans, another divisional matchup. So this is like the one down spot over like a 9-week span in their schedule, or maybe even more than that if they have a bye in there somewhere. It looks like they do not, but this is like the most down spot in their schedule all year, man. So if they're going to lapse in focus in one game, it's going to be against Carolina. And you're getting line value here. You're getting a Carolina team that is probably in bounce back mode here after getting blown out by Chicago on the road. They're probably a bit pissed about that. So I think they're probably going to bring some focus in this game. This is their only home game in the next 3 weeks as well. In a span of 4 weeks, it's their only home game. So they're probably going to want to go all out and try to get this win. So I like it. And they are still going with Dalton at QB, even though he hasn't been that good since that game against the Raiders, where if you remember, that was the one time I played Carolina, and I talked about how ugly it was to be playing them, but Vegas was off upsetting Baltimore, so it was a good spot to fade Vegas. I think it was a sandwich spot. It happened there, and this might be the next spot, man. Hey, 2 losses and then a win. How about we do that again? 2 losses and then a win. Let's get an outright win with Carolina this week. Come on, man. Let's get some ginger fever going again. Ginger magic. Dalton, I mean, he did really bad last week, but come on. It was against a Chicago Bears defense that's definitely one of the best defenses in the league. Aside from that, he's done fine in the other games. And Chuba Hubbard, Chuba Hubbard. I don't know how you pronounce that guy's name. But he's been one of the best running backs in football, actually. If you look at like some of his like yardage per play numbers and stuff, I don't know how that's the case, but it is. So Carolina actually has a decent rushing attack, and they have at least a capable quarterback with some decent like young wide receivers around him. So I mean, they may be able to actually score some points here, even though Atlanta's defense is probably okay. But I don't think Atlanta's defense is really as good as maybe we thought it was. Looking at early in the season, I thought they were going to be good. They were good last year, but this season they haven't been quite as good. So let's we're definitely getting value taking the points here. So let's just do it. I mean, like I said, the line is up 3 more points over the last week for no reason other than how the Falcons and Panthers both performed in the previous week's game. It made the line move up 3 points for no reason. So you're getting value on the Panthers here. The total has gone up, though, from 43.5 to 47 with juice to the under. 59% of the tickets on the over, but 80% of the cash on the under. So I don't know if that move is actually even legitimate, or maybe just it was like I don't know if it was a false move or what it was. But it went way up, and now it looks like the cash is way on the under. So you may see that line come back down. So based on the market read there, it doesn't necessarily look like the professional bettors are expecting this to be a necessarily high-scoring game there. So again, you want to take points when you think this, it's not going to be a ridiculously high-scoring game. Hopefully that's the case in that one. Diem Turner, what's up, man? Or is it DM? Carpa Diem, brother. You quit watching all sports ball. You're just here from me. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate you guys being in the chat. You haven't considered what ramifications of watching Better Off Dead. Me engaging my engaging my audience. I'm trying, man. I'm talking to you guys who are in the chat. I just interacted with you, man. What do you want? I've been interacting with the chat. I was just, this is how I do it. I go on an autistic rant and then I check the chat again. I don't know. I mean, I kind of need like banter with like a co-host, though, is kind of what I need. Monday night, this is going to be the last game. I always talk about Monday, and it's going to be one of my plays. New York Jets plus 2.5. I know how ugly this is, man, but I think there are reasons to be on it. I like this one, and man, I think you could wait on this one too. I think all 3 of them, because we're fading the public and we're taking point spreads that are right around the key numbers, man. New England, I was able to find the 7. It's at 6.5 right now. Carolina's kind of hanging around 6.5, and this one is 2.5. So it is a situation where I think you can just wait until tomorrow on all of these, and if you wind up still having to take the 6.5, or in this case the 2.5, go for it. But if you get the 7 or the 3 on those, obviously take that instead, because you want that key number. And if the line drops slightly down to the 2 or to the 6 or whatever it is, that doesn't really matter. Between the 6.5 and 6, especially between the 2.5 and 2, doesn't really matter that much. I'm fading the Buffalo Bills here, so I'm fading both ends of that Bills-Houston game from last week. Bills up from 1.5 to 2.5 with reduced juice, 60% of the tickets and 55% of the cash. So I do think that the cash percentage is indeed not as heavily on the Bills as the ticket percentage is. So I think that's the case in all three of these games, man. You're looking at a road favorite that's getting the public ticket percentage, and they're not getting the public cash percentage. We're looking at a low total in this one, too, down from 44 to 40.5. Juice to the over a little bit. 60% of the tickets on the over. 79% of the cash looks like it's on the over, so I don't know. Maybe there is some take back on the over there once it got down below the 41, so maybe that was like a setup, a false move for the over players to come in and take it over 41, but I'm not sure about that. Like, do you really want to play an over in a game where you have a good Jets defense and a not very good Jets offense? Maybe not. So we're getting the better defense taking points at home, though. So that's one thing. That's kind of a starting point. If you get the better defense as an underdog, especially at home, that is one way that you tend to want to look. So that's what you're getting with the Jets, even though Buffalo's defense I don't think is that bad either. But then that could mean it turns into like a defensive battle, so that might help out the underdog in this one too. Buffalo, like I said, they're coming off a big game, man. I thought it may be a bounce back spot last week from them after they got crushed by Baltimore, but they are coming off two step-up games there, and they lost that game to Houston right near the end, as I mentioned. So I think that may put them in a letdown spot, man. Coming off that game against Houston like that, that was a game that could like kind of beat you up a little bit. It was actually more of a physical, like defensive game because Houston is actually playing better defense than I think we expected out of them. So Buffalo's coming off that. It was a big game. Maybe they considered it a playoff preview game. And now they're going to face the lowly Jets, who, I mean, the Bills have had the Jets number for a while now. And, I mean, I think that maybe could cause Buffalo to overlook them, even though I know they know that it is Aaron Rodgers. But that offense just looks like it hasn't been good with Aaron Rodgers. Everybody's saying he's washed up now. And you look at the Bills' schedule this year, man. I mean, this is a Bills team that, yeah, they have Josh Allen. It looks like, according to this, it looks like he was checked for a concussion. So he was going through concussion protocol, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming he's playing because if he wasn't playing, this line would completely flip to the Jets being a favorite. I don't even know who their backup quarterback is there on Buffalo. But so Allen should be playing. But Buffalo, as I was saying, this season, man, this Buffalo offense, I don't think is what we saw last year. And it looks like Cook had some questions as well as far as whether he was going to play. He's the Bills' starting running back, but it looks like he is going to play. They do have some injuries on defense. I guess Oliver, and there are some other guys out, I think, already on Baltimore's defense, or excuse me, Buffalo's defense. But what I was about to get to is Buffalo, I think their offense is taking a step back this year, even though they looked good the first few weeks. Not as much so the last 2 weeks when they finally ran into some good defenses because they're without their top two wide receivers from last year. Josh Allen had those weapons around him with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. They're both gone. Diggs is on Houston, and I believe Davis is on Jacksonville. So Buffalo has played both of them already this season. But I know Buffalo has like Keon Coleman or whatever. I think he's like maybe their number one or number two wide receiver now, and he's a rookie. Not the greatest spot there, or not the greatest situation for Buffalo's wide receiver core there necessarily. Although, yes, they do have Josh Allen throwing to them. Maybe he's also a little bit banged up here. Now, he's facing 3 physical defenses in a row, man, and it's a third straight road game. So this scheduling spot really looks kind of brutal for Buffalo, man. You have to play Baltimore, Houston, and the Jets defenses all on the road in 3 straight weeks. Ooh. That's going to be tough, man. I mean, you're going to be real banged up by the end of that, and that could affect Buffalo. It could mean that Buffalo starts to kind of falter in this game because they're just so physically beat up by the end of it. So I'm liking the fate of Buffalo for a bunch of those reasons. They don't have anything up next, at least, so it's not a sandwich spot. So at least Buffalo has that going for them with Tennessee up next. But Buffalo, I mean, they haven't been able to beat any team that has a good defense so far, and the Jets certainly qualify as a good defensive team. Buffalo beat Arizona and Miami, and then and Tua got hurt in that game, and that was a misleading result too because Miami actually completely outgained them, and then they killed Jacksonville, and Jacksonville was really struggling. So the 2 best teams that Buffalo has faced, they lost to both of them, and the Jets, I still qualify the Jets as one of the better teams they're going to be facing. I think the Jets are probably the 3rd best team that Buffalo has faced so far this season. So, again, Buffalo has not done well when they've had to step up in class so far this year. So maybe this Buffalo team isn't exactly who we thought they were through those first 3 weeks. The Jets, they're 2-3, man. The thing about the Jets is look at the standings, man. If the Jets win this game, they're going to be tied with Buffalo and have the tiebreaker because they'll have beaten Buffalo. Jets win this game, they're in first place in the AFC East, man. So that's what the Jets are playing for here. And, of course, Buffalo is going to be playing to prevent them from doing that. But, Buffalo at worst is going to wind up being tied and, yes, having lost the tiebreaker to the Jets. But I think that might motivate the Jets a little bit more, too, because they do not want to fall to two. If they lose, they fall to 2 games behind Buffalo. They're not going to want that, and their playoff hopes are going to be in jeopardy. So I think the Jets – you're going to get a focused Jets team, I think, man, because they need the game more. They are coming back from London, so it is kind of an unfamiliar environment, but I think that type of situation is actually it's a little bit misleading, I think, as we've seen how it's played out in the NFL over the years that have had the London games. Teams that come off the London game, they usually have buys the week after that, but there are teams – the NFL allows the team to say, I don't want to take the bye that week. Like, give me the bye another week, and I'll play the week when I get back from London. And teams that have done that have actually not done poorly on the return from London when they have just skipped the bye. They've actually played well. So I don't think that the fact that the Jets are returning home from London is actually going to be that much of a negative. Yeah, they are coming off a game against an undefeated Minnesota team where the Jets – stepped up and had to play in London, but it does mean they do have a little bit of extra rest because they played early Sunday morning instead of having to play during the day on Sunday, which I think is when Buffalo played, I think in the early afternoon slot. Yeah, so the Jets have a little bit extra rest because of that, but the Jets maybe should have won this game, man, in some ways. I mean, they actually outgained Minnesota a little bit. That they had crucial turnovers in this game. Aaron Rodgers has got to get that under control, man. He had one, I think, pick 6 in the game that really set them back, and then he threw an interception in Vikings territory near the end of the game, and the Jets were driving for a potential game-winning touchdown there. So this game was actually pretty close at the very least, and the Jets easily could have won that game, and I don't think that's going to mean the Jets are actually going to be in like a hangover spot coming back from that. The Jets are going to be focused, man. I mean, the division is on the line here, and Buffalo's coming to their house, man. So I don't think the Jets they're not going to be suffering from like a hangover spot here, man. I mean, it's Buffalo, and if you want to motivate them even more, look at what else is going on here for the Jets. The Jets just fired their coach, Robert Saleh, whatever. To be honest, I think he got fired because he was sporting the Lebanon flag. That's my opinion. I think the Israel Zionists that are at play came in and caused that firing to happen, probably nudge the front office. That's my opinion. I know there are people coming out there saying it was Aaron Rodgers. He had something to do with it. I'm not sure about that, but even if that's the case, despite what you hear from like the public, the people that don't know what's going on, and the people that like to hate Aaron Rodgers because of his politics, because of the refusing the vax and whatever, I don't think the teammates hate Aaron Rodgers, man. I don't know if they liked Robert Saleh. I mean, I don't think that they dislike Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I think Rodgers still commands respect in a locker room, man. I mean, he's a veteran. He's a Super Bowl winner. He's Aaron Rodgers. He's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I think that's I think these players do like to play for him. I think they respect him. And this coaching shakeup, I think, is going to be good, man, even though it was under some weird circumstances. So usually when a coach gets fired, it's a little bit later in a season. It's when a team is doing poorly, and usually it's a positive for those reasons. It's usually a situation where the team doesn't like the coach, and then they like to play really hard for the new coach. So I'm not sure that that's the case here, but I think maybe it is. Maybe the Jets players did not like Saleh, and the guy who's stepping in, I think their defensive coordinator is now stepping in as the head coach. So now they have some guy being elevated up to the defensive coordinator role, and Hackett, who I know he's like buddies with Aaron Rodgers. I think he's buddies with Aaron Rodgers from the time that they were both at Green Bay. He was the offensive coordinator. His play calls were pretty bad this season. He's been demoted. So the Jets have an entirely new coaching crew for this game. They have a new head coach and new coordinators. So does that mean that the offense is going to have to like relearn like the playbooks? And does that mean they're going to take some time to actually have to adapt to that and learn it? Maybe. But what I was about to say is that when teams fire their head coach and the players don't like that head coach, it usually sparks the team, and the team usually plays a lot better because they want to play hard for that new coach, and they didn't like the other guy. But not only that, but the other reason is because the players want to prove that the reason they were losing was not them and that it was the coach. So the players get extra motivated for that reason too, and that should certainly be in play here. Like the Jets lost their last 2 games, and the players want to prove that it was not because of them. They want to prove that, hey, the coach is out of here, or all 3 coaches are now out of those roles. The players want to prove, nope, it was those guys, not us. We're going to play hard. So I expect the Jets players to come out and play hard for that reason. And on top of that, obviously, they're hosting the Bills on Monday night, fighting to take over the division. All of that's motivating as well. And if that's all not enough, this is the rematch of the Week 1 game last year where Aaron Rodgers got injured immediately and ended his entire season. So this is the rematch of that. So this is the Aaron Rodgers injury rematch. So I think that's going to pump the Jets up and pump Rodgers up for that too, because they remember that happened against Buffalo in the first week of last season. So I see a lot of things that could potentially motivate the Jets here. I like the Jets side here. And I already explained why I think Buffalo's in kind of a bad spot here. I think the Jets are in a focus spot here, man. So that's what I'm going to do. And one other thing I'll point out is that the Jets struggled against Denver and Minnesota's defenses, and maybe San Francisco's. I don't know. Well, they struggled. They definitely struggled against all 3 of those defenses. But at least in the last 2 weeks, those 2 teams blitz a ton. So the Jets were struggling against the blitz. Buffalo does not blitz as much on defense, so that could also help the Jets. And the Jets' offensive line has really been struggling. It hasn't been Rodgers. This offensive line has been one of their worst units. So Rodgers has been under pressure. So I think the fact that the Bills don't blitz enough is going to help in that respect. But also the new offensive coordinator is coming in. That might actually help other protection schemes as well. So for all those reasons, give me the New York Jets Monday night plus 2.5, and you could potentially get plus 3 on that one as well. Oh boy. What else we got going on here in the chat here, man? You don't know how Allen is playing. Yeah, he I believe took a pretty hard hit in that game against Houston, right? And if he's not in, Mitch Trubisky is their backup. Yeah, good luck to the Bills if that happens. Diem, shut the fuck up, bro. I stream. I go, man. I'm an autistic ranter. I just spur out. Yeah, I know who Minty Betts is. She's eye candy, baby. I don't know where she's at now. I think I follow her on Twitter. She might actually be the perfect co-host for me because I don't think she knows anything about sports, and she's hot. So you got that dynamic. Yeah, that would actually be perfect. Yeah. I could DM her. I don't know if her DMs are open. I don't know. It is DM as in Carpe Diem. All right. Well, Carpe Diem, sir. Shakir is the Bills' number 1 wide receiver. All right. I'm trying to go through these comments and then I'll get out of here. The Patriots are terrible now. They do not have Bill Belichick or Tom Brady anymore, obviously. An oblong ball made of pigskin through a giant H. What movie reference is that? I don't even know. You guys can let me know. I've seen most of the football movies that are out there, but I can't even remember, man. Maybe I've heard it before. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers did not take the clock shot, as I mentioned. Yeah, he's the one who was the most public about it. So I love Rodgers for that. I was already a Rodgers fan, but I love him for that. All right, thank you. You're here for the autism. Thank you, sir. Does the NFL have half of their coaches black, gay, tranny, wheelchair, autist? No, they do have a lot of black coaches, but that's been the case for a while. Because think about it, a lot of former players become coaches. So that's been the case. You got Mike Tomlin. He's one of the better coaches. The Patriots have a black coach now with Gerard Mayo. I don't know that he's very good at all, but I'll tell Minty that it's Cocktober. That's true. Oh, it was Coming to America. I thought it was a football movie. All right. So it was not. Hell yeah, brother. Aaron Rodgers. Let's get it done this week with the New York Jets, man. So once again, those plays that I got this week are the New England Patriots +7, although it is at 6.5 right now. Hopefully you can get the 7 tomorrow at some point because it is better, obviously, and I got it during the week. Carolina +6.5. That one doesn't look to me like it's going to hit 7, so probably it's going to be the 6.5. And the New York Jets could probably wait until Monday to play this one, and it may get to 3 on the New York Jets. With the public really comes in on those primetime games, and you see more public action because they're trying to recoup what they lost during the week, and this is a very public week this week. So New York Jets +2.5 is that last play on Monday night. Let's get it done. I am Tower Gang Toad, of course. Follow me on Twitter, obviously, Twitter/X. Follow the Tower Gang podcast. Man, I'm so out of it. These videos are going so long. Tower Gang, every Wednesday night, the most offensive comedy podcast out there. Wednesday nights, 9-11 p.m. Eastern. Subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/Tower Gang. You get live post shows, pre-shows. You get to hang out in the Telegram chat with us, submit mailbag questions, other things. He's the opposite of a mayo monkey because he's black. Although I guess maybe you're saying the other part of it is literal. Oh geez, oh man. All right, and then thank you too, Nate. Thanks for hanging out, guys. And what else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I always plug on the football shows here. I plug flapper.net, flappr.net. They are the world's finest smut blog. They talk about women a whole lot and rate women. They do talk about sports. They are artists of comedy as well. They're definitely a humor blog as well, and they talk about politics and history as well. I love you too. Yes, homo man. Laney is the man. What's up, Flippy Hambone? Just about to get out of here. So flapper.net, and I am helping them with betting odds on the Milkers of the Year award, which is going to be awarded at the end of the year to the best, most famous rack of the year. Nancy Mace is out there publicly again, so she's about to move up, I think, in the betting odds as well there. Have a good one, guys. Peace out, and we love Nancy Mace as well, and we love Aaron Rodgers. Let's go. Have a good one. Let's get some wins. Peace.